Hello and welcome back to the Guns and Glory show. A couple of months ago, my former neighbor and his friends decided they were going to post my address on the internet and my mother's name and my daughter's and their addresses as well, and talk about my criminal record and anything else they could think of. So, since I was actually convicted a couple of times of things that I have not done, I wasn't guilty of it, I wanted to just talk about it and clear it up. I brought some notes because, it's a criminal record. What do you do? And I have a sense of humor. Anyway, it kind of explains why I see the things the way that I see them and why I consider myself to be like a man of principle and not a man of law, because law is political and it's biased and it's fickle and it can be one law for thee and another for me. Whereas principle is just, what is right and what is wrong. It started out when I was a teenager. My dad would argue and fight, and punch holes through doors and break drywall and scream. And anyway, he'd yell at my friends too. And I didn't have very many because of it. Anyway, there was no violence or anything. In fact, we just had an argument, and I went over to my friend's house like any other day, talking about what Dad was bitching about again, playing Nintendo or whatever. And another friend came over on his bike. He said, "Hey, there's cops at your house." So, well, what's going on? I have a clue. So I booked it back down there and wanted to talk to the cop about it. So what's going on? Why is there a cop in my house? He's like, "One more word and you're going to jail." Because he'd already talked to my dad, and I was a young punk with long hair, and so I liked Skid Row and Motley Crue or whatever. And he's like, "One more word and you're going to jail." Well, you don't say that to me. So I said, "One more word." He's, "All right, you're going to jail." Well, he went for his handcuff. Good thing he didn't go for his gun, because I took it from him at that time. Anyway, he reached for his handcuff, and so I grabbed his pelvic bone like that and put my shoulder into his sternum and introduced his lower back to the tailgate, which was down behind him and on my dad's truck. Well, I grabbed him up here and threw him up in the back of the truck and just kind of floated on him for a minute. And so his friend pulled me off of him. And maybe should have learned to let me finish my sentence. That was the first one. It was back in the good old days when you could fight with a cop that started a fight with you, and it was a misdemeanor and not a felony, and now they've decided to raise the stakes on themselves. There was another assault and resisting. I can't remember why. The same kind of just attitude from the cop, and I'm like not having any of it. So he gets out of his door to try to arrest me. So I'm like, I'm going to jail anyway. I shut the door on him just to piss him off. He deserved it. And wound up beating me up, putting me in the back of the car. It took a few of them to do it. I wasn't going down without a fight. So the cop opens the door, pepper sprays me in the cop car, which really, it kind of took my fear of pepper spray away from me, because now it's like shoot me with adrenaline. I mean, you might as well. That was dumb. One of the cops, I think maybe it was the chief, they beat me up bad enough where they wouldn't take my picture for a couple of days in booking. And he put his boot on my neck and said, "If you ever threaten or if you ever touch one of my cops again, I'll kill you." And he spit on me. And so that kind of made me anti-cop for some reason. And especially since I was in the right to begin with. I was both times. It was about then I had this epiphany, and I remember it, just a feeling went over me one day. I thought, if a cop can, put you in a cage or steal your paycheck or take your kids from you or kill you, or even right in front of your family, or do the same thing to one of your family members, then he can go home, you can pet the dog and hug his wife and tuck the kids into bed, catch a movie, and if it even comes up at all, it's like, well, I was just doing my job. I thought, okay, if it's good enough for the goose, it's good enough for the gander. I'm going to adopt your standard as my own. And if you can do that to me, I can do that to you. I didn't have any problems with the legal system for a couple of years after that. You know, I've had a lot of interactions with cops in my life, a lot of it for open carry activism, and most of it is good. And if a cop needed my hand with something, I'd feel, you know, almost obligated to help him out, but it cuts both ways. A couple of years go by, nothing happened. I grew up, got older, moved out, got my own place, and Echo was born. She was, I don't know, a few months old maybe at the most. It's 20 something years ago, guys. Give me a break. So I wanted to make some changes in my life, and there's some people around where I like, you can do your thing, but you need to go do it somewhere else. Because, you know, Child Protective Services, you know, when you're talking about real drugs, not weed or anything, but like real drugs like morphine, heroin, cocaine, they'll take your kids. And so I told this guy, I'm like, you can't use my phone to call your guy anymore. I'm sorry. And he flipped out. He flipped out and started screaming. He's like, I'm going to burn your mother effing house down, and I'm going to beat your ass and everything, and blah, blah, blah. So I'm like, all right, you're going to threaten to burn my house down. I got my little girl here. She's in you know, diapers. And so I call the cops on him. I'm like, you're not going to threaten to burn my house down like that. And so the cops raided me. They searched my house without a warrant. They said I smell weed. You know, it wasn't legal back then. And so I wound up getting charged. This cop took a little bag and he stuck it in his pocket, and he took all the other stuff and put it on a log and put it in a box somewhere. So he smoked that. And I guess that was that. I wound up with a ticket or something. They told me I had to take drug testing before. Oh yeah, they gave me a punishment. They called it bond, but they gave me a sentence before I was convicted. They said I had to drop and blah, 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 and pay for this and that, and I had the money for it. So, I sold, I'm not going to say that on the internet. It was a stupid decision on the judge's part. Really stupid. Anyway, I finally get to the case on it, and this lawyer was just about to retire, real sharp guy, and black hair. I don't remember his name. And he's like, no, this is a Fourth Amendment violation. Because I came in there, I said, hey, well, if the judge didn't want somebody in their house, and they said, you know, get out, and the response was, I'm going to burn your house down, do you think the police are going to come over and arrest the judge? Or is it one law for thee and another for me? So they kicked that case out on a Fourth Amendment violation. And that really got me interested in constitutional issues. Let's see. Oh yeah. A couple years later, I guess it was, I took Echo to my old playground at Springfield Christian Academy in Clarkston. I used to play there as a child. And I thought, you know, it'd be really neat to take my child to the same playground. And so, I played there. And I had just got my concealed pistol license, and I thought, you know what, I'm not a criminal anymore. I'm against all that. I'm not doing anything at all. I'm straight with the law, everything. Got my kid, I'm on a new path. And I was so proud of my concealed pistol license. You know, I was like, this just proves that I'm like regular citizen, right? So I'm at this playground and I'm studying the laws, and I'm thinking I'm open carrying. I got a concealed pistol license, so I'm good there, according to the law. And you're allowed to conceal in the parking lot, but you can carry openly everywhere else if you got a concealed pistol license in Michigan. Well, I had a pretty good concept of the law, but the cops didn't, the lawyers didn't. We're still doing I was still meeting people at the mall, giving them trifolds, trying to do the open carry activism, get people to know about it, just to avoid these kind of things. And so I wind up getting charged. And I'm like, why? And they're like, you can't have a gun on the school. I'm like, no, the law says you can. And the lawyer I had, which was free, she didn't cross-examine the witness. She didn't bring anything up to defend me, and I wound up getting convicted of that. I wasn't even guilty of it. So I lost my CPL for 6 months. I think I lost my license too. I don't remember. The lady lied in court. Like I said, the lawyer didn't do me any good. I got what I paid for. I was at community service for that one. I was doing work at my church. I'm reading my notes over here. Doing work at my church. It was a Clarkston First under Russ Reemstma. And I was still allowed to, carry my gun. It was still open carry. And he was nice enough to let me carry there too, or I wouldn't have done it. Yeah, I must not have my driver's license because I was walking between the church and my home to do the community service, and I went through the parking lot of the little police substation there. And an officer that didn't like the case before with the Fourth Amendment thing thought he was going to, get me jammed up on this and do whatever he could, including charging me with the assassination of President Kennedy. I mean, he wanted taking my gun and got another cop involved, and he said, "Oh, you didn't register it, so now you got to stay with us." I'm like, yeah, I did register it because I took the registration in by hand because I've heard of you people doing this stuff to people that send it in by mail because I've been on the internet and we already know about your games. So I'm about to sue this guy. He tries to give me on everything he could. That didn't work. So, now they're really, really after me. And I got there was some place in there, I don't remember exactly, but when I couldn't have my gun in the car, I'm like, that ain't gonna work. So the car was a piece of crap, and the heater didn't work very good, and it did leak exhaust into the cabin. So I built this partition behind the seats. It was a Ford Festiva. It was plexiglass and plywood so you could see through it. And I was able to keep my gun, according to the law. I couldn't keep it in the trunk. I couldn't even open it. I literally glued it shut with great stuff to seal it, to keep the exhaust out. Anyway, that was my reason. So I had my gun in a case on a locked cable in the car. And a couple of cops, the cop pulled me over I was horsing around with the car, and he saw that thing and didn't like it, but they were Second Amendment guys, and they knew what their oath meant. And that kind of opened my eyes a little bit, thinking, well, maybe they're not all bad. Because he knew what I was doing. I was exercising my right to keep and bear arms the best I could under fascism, basically, under these infringements. So they let me go. I never forgot it, and I always swore to, have the cops back if they needed it after that. That helped them out a lot. Let's see. Why not get my concealed pistol license back, get my driver's license back after about 6 months. My Festiva overheated again. I'm just about home with it, so I drive home. I spray the engine out with a hose to, cool it off, which, it's kind of a crapshoot. You could damage the motor doing that. But big old cloud of smoke. The little kids came running across the street because they thought the car was on fire. We live in a trailer park, lots of people around. Of course it wasn't, but I had known these kids. They're about 8, 10, because they're my daughter's age by then. And I was a babysitter for them and stuff, so I knew the kids. So I'm telling them right now, the car's all wet, it won't start. So I'm just kind of talking to the kids because nothing else to do right then. And so it might push start. And they're like, well, what's push starting? Okay, well, now it's warm enough where the doorbell is thawed out and it'll work again. There's nobody at the gate. Okay, so I'm like talking about push start in the car. I teach them what that is. It's a stick shift. So they try to push start the car and it doesn't start. Well, they're going about as fast as you could, push start a car. And the girl was about 10. She hopped up on the hood. And other girl hopped up on the hood and we coasted to a stop. Well, they thought it was great. I thought it was kind of funny too. I grew up in a time where you could ride in the back of a pickup truck. Okay, it was fine. Now everything is padded and so on. So The neighbor came out, and a neighbor in the park came out and just being a Karen, you shouldn't be doing that. I'm like, okay, sorry, I didn't realize we're doing nothing wrong. Won't do it again, didn't want to make any enemies. Well, the next day came by, the kids came by again and said, hey, maybe the car's dried out, we can push start it. So why not? I cranked it, it wouldn't start, we tried it. I'm like, you can't ride on the car anymore, don't jump on the hood, we're gonna get in trouble. That lady lives right there. Okay, we're not gonna do it. They jumped on the hood again, so I stopped the car this time. I'm like, no, we're not gonna do that. I hit the brake. This got the girl wobbly. She fell off and bumped her head. She got a concussion. Next thing the cops showed, guess what? It was the same cop from before, from the Fourth Amendment thing, and from the other reckless driving thing. This guy shows up. And he charged me with reckless driving, my bad. I got ahead of my story. So they're like, they charged me with reckless driving. I'm like, I'm gonna lose my license for 8 years, my concealed pistol license, my driver's license, both. What the heck? And they're like, well, if you fight this, it's a misdemeanor now, but if you decide to, defend yourself in court and get a lawyer and fight us, we're gonna drop the misdemeanor and charge you with a felony. Oh, okay, that's how you want to do it. You're not gonna play by your own rules. So naturally, I take a dive on the misdemeanor because I'm not a prohibited person. I can keep my gun rights, but lose my concealed pistol license because like I said, I was doing the open carry thing. It was getting loud, and I was getting busy with it, and they didn't like it. They were trying to shut it down. So, like, you get this charge, you won't carry your gun for 8 years. So they thought. Well, it didn't work. So I took a dive on that one. I didn't drive illegally that time for 6 months because let's see. No, it was the first one I didn't. But the second one I did because they're not going to follow the rules, and neither will I. I got my concealed pistol license back, and then during the time I didn't have a license, I wound up buying a Fiero. Yeah, I didn't really drive during that period, except for that time where I went and got that car. So I was following the rules, and yeah, I was following the rules, and so, yeah, I finally got this car. Sorry, it's 20 years, it's like 10 years ago now. I finally got this little car. I got my license back. I got Echo in it, in the car, and we bought a parakeet. We're driving home, and then these guys were riding these bicycles in the middle of the street. I'm not talking about regular, normal people who will get out of the way when they're supposed to. I'm talking about these guys in their big 10 speeds and their spandex, and they think they're a car, and they're not a vehicle. You are a toy. And so they had us all going about 20. There's about 5 or 6 people on the horn in a place where people are usually doing about 50. This isn't even safe for us or them. So, I maintained my lane and made them move. And when they pulled over, I stopped to them. They're bitching at me. I'm like, the sidewalk is 30 feet that way. And they're like, we have rights and blah, blah, blah. You see the mess these laws create. So, meanwhile, there's a snitch behind me in a Mustang. I didn't know about it until later, because me and Echo went home, play with our new bird. Just thought these people, I'm trying to teach my daughter not to ride in the middle of the street and trying to teach a lesson to my kid. She's like, I don't want anybody that mad at me, so it was a good lesson. Don't play in traffic. So, guess who shows up to my house? But the very same police officer from before. And he's got the ticket already written out for reckless driving before he even sees my side of the story or hears my side of the story. Sees any evidence at all. He knows that I'm guilty because of who I am. He dealt with me before, and he's like, blah, 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 open carry, blah, blah, blah. I'm tyrant. I'm the guy, I can have an AR-15 because of my costume, and you can't. So I wind up losing my CPL for 8 years, losing my driver's license. I drove without my license for many years. I mean, I've got a Camaro. I couldn't drive that anywhere, but I could drive the truck anywhere I wanted to. So I did. I finally go to get my license back. It cost me about 10 grand, and the judge wouldn't follow the law. I had a medical marijuana card. Thanks to Joe Biden, now they can't, with his executive order, they can't charge people federally anymore with weed, so we're allowed to talk about it now. So I had a medical marijuana card, and the judge was like, you can't get your driver's license back if you have that card. I'm like, but Michigan law says under MCL 333, I've forgotten the number anywhere. I told her the law. She's like, I don't care about the law. I'm like, well, if you're not going to play by the rules, then I guess I won't either. So I had to quit long enough to pee in a cup, and then I had to get a breathalyzer in the car. Now, mind you, I've never had a drunk driving before, but I had to have a breathalyzer in the truck for a year and pay for that. And if it messes up, you're going to lose your license. Every time it messed up, I beat it against the steering wheel. One time I beat that thing like a dog that had bitten a child. That thing was flunking me, and I was innocent. Well, it finally worked, and I had to appeal it and go in front of the judge and everything. $10,000, a couple of years later, I finally got my driver's license back. After all of that, I never did quit driving except for the time where my lawyer's like, you have to quit driving because if you get caught between this time, I can't help you. So I had to quit for a minute. I finally got my driver's license back. Everything goes normal. And then this neighbor moves in next door. And like I said, I'll put the link to the playlist, the Criminal Neighbors Criminal Acts Protected by the Prosecutor. I'll link it at the end of the video. Anyway, he's driving through my yard with his truck. And this is going on for like a year and a half and committing crimes. He's being protected, like I said, by the court. I got crimes on video. I'm putting it on Facebook. BLM showed up at the house one time. It was nuts. Anyway, this guy wouldn't stop driving through my yard, so I put nails in the yard. And it's my property. But because he knew people on the court, he drove through my yard, flattened his tires, apparently on 2 vehicles somehow, on both sides of one vehicle, which basically means that you were trespassing. Anyway, it helps know people in the court. Go Waterford. So I wound up getting a malicious destruction of property, and I had to pay restitution $1,800 to buy his tires that he used to destroy my property with. And unbelievable. I have no faith in the court, the legal system, the justice system, or anything. So I wind up going, I got an MDOP, so you can't have a CPL for 3 years after that. And this overlapped with the reckless driving ban of 8 years, so it basically added another year. So I'm 9.5 years or something without a concealed pistol license now. I finally got it back. Right before I got it back, though, I was at the church and, trying to live for God and everything else, and this crazy lady attacked my car, and I've got a whole video on it where the pastor snitched me out and I almost lost my license again. So that's the end of church for me, at least until, I'm, let's see where we're at. Anyway, I guess that's about it. I got my concealed pistol license back now. I got a driver's license now. Everything's legit, everything's legal, and I don't expect to ever have any more problems again. But since everybody decided they were going to put it on the internet for me, I wanted to clear it up. That, yeah, I have a criminal record, but I wasn't guilty of most of it, frankly. Some of it, yeah, and I'll take ownership for it, but the rest of it, no. Anyway, I've been trying to shoot this video for about 3.5 hours now. It's almost half an hour long in and of itself, and I want to go do something else. So have fun. I got some more videos coming up, a couple more projects, and maybe something coming up big this summer.